Rome, summer, 102 BC. What has happened so far? Rome is in turmoil. The Marius reform resulted in the dissolution of all legions. Currently, in the Seleucid Empire, on the Roman border, Numerius Cornelius Rufinus attacks the city of Cotais, far in the north. With two other Roman generals, he forms the Lost Legion. They raid the city and massacre all its inhabitants. Meanwhile, in another location in the south of Persia or New Rome, Numerius Aemilius Scaeverus leads his troops far into the south and makes his expectations known to the remaining Seleucid noble houses. They are to kneel, but these fools do not bend. Sophonikos challenges the Roman general, calling him out to face him and his meager army of just 400 troops, including a young general. Is he on Ambrosia? He wants to find out. Numerius Aemilius Scaeverus has arrived with a legion and stands with half of it, over 2,000 men, outside the gates of Selkis. Welcome to Total War. After the walls were climbed, Numerius Aemilius Scaeverus found himself in a tight spot. A narrow street, a Seleucid trap. The Persians are famous for their cunning. Scaeverus quickly saw through Sophonikos' plan, but had no other choice. To conquer the city, he had to go through it. He sent his hoplites. As the hoplites emerged from the alley, the enemy immediately and relentlessly attacked. Heavy armored cavalry and a hostile mob of hoplites immediately charged. It led to a stalemate and a long bloody battle. The phalanx consisted of heavily armed infantrymen who stood closely together in rows and held their long shields and spears in perfect formation. The shields, called hoplons, were usually made of bronze and were circular so that the fighters could hide behind them. They protected the phalanx from enemy arrows and spears and formed an almost impenetrable wall. The fighters also wore heavy armor, including breastplates, shin guards, and helmets to protect themselves from enemy attacks. The phalanx was very dangerous because it was able to overrun enemy units. The fighters in the first row thrust their spears forward, trying to break through the enemy ranks. If the phalanx had broken through the first line of defense, the fighters in the rear ranks could quickly advance and achieve victory. The enemy general, Sophonikos, is a great admirer of Hellenic culture and pays homage to the ancient gods. He leads numerous armored riders and a phalanx. He attacked the Romans with all he had. His men were ordered not to retreat and to show no mercy. In Roman times, armored riders, also known as cataphracts, were a relatively new and very effective form of cavalry. Compared to unarmored riders, they had several advantages on the battlefield. 1. Protection. Armored riders were equipped with heavy armor that protected them from enemy attacks. This gave them a higher chance of survival on the battlefield. 2. Penetration. Armored riders were able to penetrate deep into enemy formations and cause chaos there. With their heavy armor and weapons, they could break through enemy lines and wreak havoc. 3. Impact force. The heavy horses on which armored riders rode were themselves able to break through enemy formations and injure or kill opponents. Together with the riders' strength and weapons, armored riders formed a deadly weapon on the battlefield. 4. Shock tactic. Armored riders could accelerate their horses at full gallop and then hit enemy formations with great force. This shock tactic was extremely effective in breaking enemy lines and killing or injuring enemies. 5. Mobility. Although heavily armored, armored riders were still very mobile and able to move quickly on the battlefield. They could quickly change positions and be deployed in different situations. There was no turning back for the Persian generals, and no mercy. The enemy was quickly surrounded and fought for their lives. The Persians fought like Hellenic gods against the outnumbered Romans. There was no turning back and no escape. One fell after another until only a few Persians remained. The Persian general was separated from his armored riders and surrounded by Roman legionnaires. He fought bravely, but he fell. Nevertheless, the phalanx continued to fight to the last man, to the death.